Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you to WNYC and the Greene Space for hosting the kickoff of the Adelante Cuba Festival, which is City Center's first ever festival of Cuban music and dance that's taking place throughout the week this week. Yay! Tonight we're so fortunate to have with us the band leader, composer, thinker, and musician Arturo O'Farrill. He's just incredible, and he's going to be joined by members of his band and also Yasek Manzano, a trumpet player, and the tap artist Ayodele Casel. And they are part of an evening that Arturo curated that's going to take place on our main stage this Saturday, April 28th. And they are joined by an all-star cast of musicians, including the Camerata Romeo String Ensemble, the rapper Telmari Diaz, the pianist Roberto Fonseca, and the Buena Vista Social Club legend Omar Portuondo, as well as the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra. On Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday nights, we're very proud to be presenting the United States debut of Acosta Danza, which is the brand new dance company that was founded by the ballet superstar Carlos Acosta. And they are performing a beautiful contemporary programming of work that really showcases the legendary virtuosity of dancers from Cuba. Our main stage events are going to be complemented by a lot of ancillary events that will include exhibit of photographs by the photographer Eric Politzer, who photographed a bunch of musicians and dancers against the glorious backdrop of Cuba. And I hope you'll come into our theater to see that. And the way to get into our theater to see that is to buy some tickets. And to do that, you go to nycitycenter.org. And on your way out, you'll also get some flyers to give you more details about those events. Thank you.
So while we're on notes of gratitude, in addition to thanking City Center, I want to thank anyone here who's a member of WNYC or WQXR. Are there any members in the house? A few, nice. Thank you so much. Everything we do is supported by you and also by the Jerome L. Green Foundation. So that is the end of the thanks. Let's get on with the show. Let's live in the now. Let's do it. I'm going to put you in the hands of a brilliant host this evening. She has interviewed artists like Misty Copeland, Norman Lear, Judith Jamison, and Anna Devere Smith right here on this stage for her Greene Space original series, Icons and Innovators. She'll be back here on May 2nd with the all the awards-winning filmmaker Rick Burns to talk about his latest documentary. She's also a television producer and writer and the author of the acclaimed memoir, Always Wear Joy, and the novels One Flight Up and Imperfect Bliss. Please welcome Susan Fales-Hill.
Good evening, bienvenidos, and bienvenido to spring. I cannot think of I cannot think of a better time in our history to be celebrating the magnificent culture of the island of Cuba, which, like other Caribbean nations, sits at the very crossroad of civilizations. In Cuba, disparate cultures from Africa, Europe, and Asia coalesced into a wholly original and harmonious whole. As Arturo O'Farrill said himself in an interview for AARP en Español, Cuba nos ofrece la imagen del futuro. Cuba gives us an image of the future. And he and our other superstar guest this evening, Ayodele Casel, have selected as their modes of expression two quintessential American art forms that, like the island of Cuba, represent a melding of disparate cultures and represent the artistic embodiment of the best of our American creed, e pluribus unum, out of many one, tap and jazz. Tap artist Ayodele Casel was hailed by no less a genius than the late great Gregory Hines as the greatest young tapper in the world. Yes, thank you very much. And when you see her, you will not disagree. One of the greatest. There are many great, but she's one of the greatest. As a choreographer, she has created pieces for the City Center Encore series. She has been given commissions by Harlem Stages and the Apollo. As a tapper, she has performed around the world with Gregory Hines and with Savion Glover in his NYOT, Not Your Usual Tap group. She performed at the White House, She did her one-woman show, While I Have the Floor, at the Spoleto Festival USA, and an excerpt from it rocked the house at the Broadway for Hillary fundraiser during our last election. Maybe if they'd done more than an excerpt, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in today. So Ayodele, for 2020, got to do the whole darn thing. She won the 2017 Hoofer Award. Arturo O'Farrill is a pianist, a composer, an educator. He heads the CUNY Brooklyn jazz program. He cut his teeth with the Carla Bley Orchestra as a teen, went on to become a soloist with people such as Dizzy Gillespie and Harry Belafonte, for whom he also did arrangements. In 2007, he founded the Afro-Latin Jazz Alliance to celebrate, educate, and perform the Latin jazz tradition. He has won 6 Grammys, most recently in 2018. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome 2 artists who are headliners at the Adelante Cuba Festival and who also bring us all forward as a culture and a country, reminding us of our common humanity. Please welcome them, Arturo O'Farrill and Carla and Ayodele Casel.
You. Hello.
Thank you, and hello, and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So both of you are people who are continuing beautiful artistic traditions while innovating them, but I want to start by talking a bit about your formation as artists. So for you, Ayodele, you came to tap somewhat late. You didn't discover it till you were 19 years old. Can you tell us about that discovery? Because you went to NYU Tisch to become an actress.
Yes.
Then what happened?
So, I started, I think my senior year in high school. I became obsessed with old movies. I loved Ingrid Bergman and Cary Grant and, Clark Gable, and I was really, really into that. And then I discovered Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. I saw I think maybe Top Hat or Swing Time, and it just I don't know, it took my breath away. And I remember, being in the Bronx in my room, like I would go home after school and I would go to the library to rent their movies, and I would just look at it and try to teach myself how to do what they were doing. But, not very well. But I was like, I just move my feet like this. But I was so inspired by that. I thought it was magical. And I don't know. I wanted to be a part of that. I didn't grow up dancing, so I didn't even know about like dance culture, about like dance studios. That wasn't something that was part of my, experience as a kid. But when I went to NYU as an acting major, I think freshman year we took some movement classes because they didn't want us like bumbling around the stage. So we took Tai Chi the first year, and then the second year they had us. They said you can take Tai Chi or you can take tap, and I thought, finally, this is gonna be my chance to like live my dream.
I'm gonna be Ginger.
Because I wanted to be Ginger Rogers. I mean, my prom dress, I made my mom go out to get a prom dress that looked like her dress in Swing Time. Like, it didn't really look like it at all, but in my mind, I was like, I'm Ginger, But anyway, so I finally had this opportunity to go to take this class, and I went to Payless Shoe Stores to get some shoes because I didn't want any dance shoes. I wanted them to look like Gingers in like this movie. And I found this like suede lace-ups, and I put some taps on them. And I was living my best life in that tap class. And it was like falap, heel, spank, heel, to heel, falap. But I loved it so much. But so that was really like my.
But you're a prodigy, because to go from that to then being one of the only women dancing with Savion Glover,
Well, it was like really divine intervention, because at that time, Bringing the Noise, Bringing the Funk had opened at the Public Theater, and I had actually met one of my mentors who's my peer as well. His name was Bakari Wilder, and he was going to NYU as well. And he was doing the show at the Public, and he said, you should come see it. I said, is there a tap in it? And he was like, yeah. So when I saw that show, it changed my life. I immediately, it was the first time nobody had ever seen or heard anything like that, up until that point, that spot, I'll never forget it. I was like, And I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do, and I just became obsessed. I was talking to Yasek backstage. I just became obsessed with it.
So for Arturo, you grew up in the Afro-Cuban tradition. Your father was the great Chico O'Farrill,
That's correct.
who was a big band leader here.
Thank you.
Applause,
Thank you very much.
please.
Thank you.
And then became an exile here really after the revolution. But for you, you had kind of moved away from your father's tradition and were following Chick Corea and other people. And then at a certain point, you talk about feeling both a filial duty and a duty as an artist to maintain his legacy. Can you talk about that shift?
Sure, I can. I think it's the honor-bound duty of every young person to absolutely reject everything that they're taught. Especially if your parents teach you. And so I did. I rejected my culture, my Latino-ness. I came to this country as a 5-year-old Mexican
From Mexico,
child.
yeah.
And for some reason, I got the idea that we were less than the rest of the population. I don't know where I got that idea.
It's so supportive.
In any case, I did reject my father's music, and I began a career in free jazz and the New York City jazz circles. I had the privilege of working with the great Carla Bley
Yes.
for 3 years, who is an
great
absolute
innovator.
genius,
Yeah.
great genius of modern jazz. And over time, I just made a career doing freelance work. And at one point, the great Andy Gonzalez, who's a bass-playing brother of Jerry Gonzalez of the Fort Apache Band, and a real important figure in the development and the history of Latin, said, "I've been following your career." And I looked at him when anybody says they've been following your career, you have to look a little askance, because that's,
Are you a stalker?
yeah. I didn't think I had a career, but he said, "I've been following your career, and you should be proud of your roots and reconnect with them." And that was the first time that somebody said that to me. And I looked at him and I went, "What?" I said, "Yeah, man, this music that you rejected is really hard." And so I went to the University of Andy Gonzalez at the corner of Fort Independence Avenue in the Bronx, baby. And sat down, and he showed me the history of this music, and my life changed, because this music is not easy. This music is difficult, it's rich, it's powerful, it's a music that has changed my life, and I think that I really owe Andy a tremendous debt of gratitude. And then my father kind of noticed that he had a resurgence in his career, is what happened. He had been kind of sidelined into the jingle business, and then Todd Barkin, who was just proclaimed an NEA jazz master, said, "What's your father doing?" I said, "Man, he's just writing jingles." And he said, "Well, bring him out of retirement, get him out here, we'll do some recordings." And my father had that incredible resurgence, renaissance in his career at the end of his life. At which point he was older, and he couldn't quite handle the vicissitudes of leading a big band. So I kind of stepped into that role, and I really assumed command of his ship.
The
and
Afro-Cuban
then the Afro-Cuban
Jazz
Jazz
Band at
Orchestra
Birdland.
at Birdland. And then I had the great pleasure of working with Wynton Marsalis, who offered me the opportunity to bring my own orchestra to jazz at Lincoln Center, and I created something called the Afro Latin Jazz Orchestra, because I decided that Cuba was just a small part of Latin jazz, a small part of the Americas. And even though Cuba is a very important part of this story, there are places like Peru and Colombia and Brazil, and I mean, these are places that have as rich a tradition of jazz and jazz-like activities as any part of the world. And
Well, you've talked about it as a Pan-American phenomenon, not just Cuban phenomenon.
No, I also think of it as a Pan-African.
Yes, it is.
It's a Pan-African art form.
Yeah.
And we're very, very lucky to be able to participate in music that was born richly in Africa, and that we're just blessed to be able to live our lives and be able to express our souls through this music.
And I'd like you to talk, Ayodele, because you discovered Latin music when you went to live in Puerto Rico with your grandparents, because you're half Puerto Rican. Can you talk about the importance of Latin music in your life?
In my life? Oh, yeah.
and
Well, actually, Arturo, I can relate to that, because when I was a kid, my grandfather, living in Puerto Rico, I moved there when I was 9, would play it all the time. And he would play it specifically, in my mind, how I remember it was on Saturdays going to the mall and and at home all the time. And I just remember asking him to stop playing it because I felt like it gave me like a stomach ache, like that. I like started to associate it with indigestion, And so I really, because I was young, I probably was listening to Debbie Gibson, but when I was I would say 19 in college as well. My friend who was Puerto Rican, she didn't grow up there, but her family was Puerto Rican, and she loved Latin music, and we would go to the clubs around New York City just to dance and listen to it. It was the first time that I started to really appreciate it in a different way. And then when I started tap dancing, I don't know. I just kind of put that 2 and 2 together. I'm like, I love tap and I love this music. It's innate. It's part of who I am. And I just started dancing to it.
You've said sometimes when you dance, you feel like Tito Puente.
I said, yeah, I feel like I say like Rey Barreto on the congas. I love it. It feels like home to me. I think much like tap dancing, I always say tap is magic. I think that people, whether you're 3 or 90, they love it. They have a connection to it. And I feel the same way about Latin music. I think that when you play Latin music anywhere, whether it be a restaurant at the, in a club or anywhere, in the elevator, people just respond to it in that way. And I love it. I just think 2 magical items together.
So part of this festival is about reviving the cultural exchange and dialogue that has gone on really since the 19th century between the United States and Cuba. You've been going back to Cuba since 2002. And we have to take a moment, a little history moment, a little Cuban history moment. Your last name is O'Farrill because your ancestor, Ricardo O'Farrill O'Grady, was named by the British South Sea Company as an agent in 1715.
That's true.
So all of these worlds are all so interconnected. But back to you, in 2002, you start going back and working with musicians there, and you were in Cuba in 2015 when Obama lifted really parts of the embargo. What was that like to be there in that moment?
Wow. I've been going to Cuba 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a year since 2002, and working diligently to bring musicians up to New York, send musicians down there, and just in general to have an exchange. And I was foreseeing the day that there might be a resurgence of cooperation between the 2 nations, and I didn't want commerce to be the guiding principle behind it. So I was really working very hard all those years to make sure there were a lot of cultural connections, because otherwise, and it's happening now, there's a Sheraton Hotel in Havana, things like that. It's just commerce always rules our lives, and I get sick and tired of it. So I worked very hard to bring musicians to go back and forth, and on that day, the thing that happened was that we were rehearsing with a wonderful dance company called Malpaso in their synagogue that they rehearse in Vedado, and there was a kind of a hubbub going on. And somebody said, well, there's about to be a big announcement, and we went downstairs in the community room and gathered around a TV and watched President Raul Castro and President Barack Obama say something that I never thought I'd hear from any politician in the history of my life. We have failed policy. We have failed to do right by our 2 nations. I thought that was an incredible moment. Just to have a politician say there is a failed policy is worth it. But the moment was so emotional for so many people. There were literally people who were stunned. I was watching Cubans just walking around in a daze. I also watched people openly weeping, and it was all I could do to keep myself from crying, because it was something that I had really wanted my father to see, but also because it represented, and of course, we're in the most sorry-ass state in the history of the United States that we're in right now, but we've gone completely backwards. But at one point, it looked like we might even have a chance at ending this horrendous embargo that has starved and suffocated my people for decades. But for a moment there, There was just incredible joy and tears and celebration, and we recorded an album the next day. And I really believe that music is spirit, spirit is music, and every single note on that record has the spiritual power of that hope that we had that day.
Yeah, it's called The Conversation Continues, and it's beautiful. And is it not a reference to that famous exchange between Dizzy Gillespie and Chano Pozo, the bongo player in 1947?
They had. I decided that there's a cloud somewhere in heaven where Dizzy Gillespie and Chano Pozo are having a drink. And continuing a conversation that began when they wrote Manteca, in which one said to the other, well, obviously they couldn't say this to each other because they both spoke different languages. Of course, Dizzy Gillespie was fond of saying that Chano Pozo does not speak English, I don't speak Spanish, but we both speak African. And that conversation was about what you're playing is just like what I love. And why? And they started discovering the truth, and the truth is always scary.
Yeah.
The truth is that what we think we've invented was invented in Africa.
Don't tell the president that.
I'm okay with that news. I'm okay with it. I don't need to be the inventor of anything. I just want to discover things.
So, Ayodele, you're so keenly aware of being one of the few women who's the real face of tap, because it's still a very male art form, and of the sort of lineage of women who came before you. What do you hope your legacy is? You're young yet, but in your one woman show, there are hints of what's my posterity, what am I leaving the future generations.
I mean, I do want to say that it is changing. I mean, there was, when I first started, like in the 90s, there was definitely a very male-centered art form, and now it's it's changing even by virtue of the fact that I'm sitting here. I am really excited by being able to express myself and live my life and bring everything that I am fully to each moment. So, and I want everybody to have that same experience. And, this dance has taught me about culture, identity, expression, language. It has reconciled many things for me. And I've learned a lot about myself and about just being a Black and Puerto Rican woman on this earth. And so I want to just always bring all that I am to each moment, and I want everybody else to feel like they can do the exact same thing.
Well, watching you, one does feel that.
Yeah, thank you.
It resonates. It definitely does. So one last question for you before you introduce your musicians and this piece that you're going to do together. You have spoken.
What piece?
You're supposed to perform. Oops. Everyone can just go back out and drink again. So you have spoken about not being fixed in your identity, not deciding I'm this and I'm not that. If you leave yourself open, the universe is yours. So what is it that you hope to become as your journey as a creative person continues?
I don't ever want to be comfortable. I don't ever want to be, I just like to have my world challenged, musically, socially, politically. I just don't, maybe it's artistic ADHD, but I can't sit in one place. I need to experience odd meters, strange chords, different concepts. I find that people have a choice, and a lot of times they make it early in life to fix themselves in a finite place in the continuum. And I can't do that. I feel more comfortable on that continuum, because on that continuum you really recognize that we are connected. From Thailand to Swaziland to Bolivia to Brooklyn, we are connected. And if you fix yourself in a point in space, you've just set humanity back 50 years. And what we need to do, more than ever in our lives today at this moment, is recognize that we are responsible for one another. And I think that the more you experience that continuum, the less fearful you get of having your ass kicked, artistically, socially, culturally, and politically. And that's what I want. That's what I want my legacy to be. That's what I want my message to be.
It's a beautiful one. Will you run for president? You're the perfect combination: Mexican, Cuban,
It's
Irish.
German too. Yeah. Irish, German, Mexican, Cuban. You know, my wife is African American and Jewish, so there you go. My kids,
We are the world.
Yeah,
They
my
can
kids
sing
are
"We
a
Are
mess.
the World" and mean it. So, do you want to tell us? This is the first time tonight, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that you two have ever performed together. I'm sure it will not be the last.
It was so beautiful, and I felt like a homecoming this afternoon when we started running through things. It felt so warm and natural and beautiful and easy, and we just looked at each other and went, "Wow."
I loved it.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
It was very special.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're going to do, or do you just want us to experience it?
Well, we're kind of going to do a few pieces, if that's
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
We have an incredible cast of musicians. We'll begin by introducing a brilliant Brazilian bass player by the name of Amanda Russa, who I've known for many years. And we also have with us Gabe Globus Honig, who is an incredible percussionist. We have Mike Swoop, who is a terrorist on the electronics. He's just the baddest cat in the world. And an old friend of mine who I met when I was his teacher at Juilliard. And actually, he kicked my ass and changed my life. So that's what's supposed to happen. His name, of course, is Yasek Manzano.
And he is a Cuban.
And he is a Cuban, and I love these people dearly. So I guess we're going to do maybe a duo, maybe a trio, maybe some soft shoe. I don't know. And then, of course, we're going to end up with some music that is contemporary, electronica, and Cuba all at once.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to get off the stage and let you delight this audience. You are incredible, and we could have talked all night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yasek Manzano, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna do a little soft shoe. Gabe, Globus Hone, Mike Swoop. We're gonna do a little shiny two-step. That's because, you know what? This is all music, man. There's no jazz, there's no Latin. There's just us. That's all it is.
Y después a las 9 de hoy de todo después a las 9 empezaba, era por supuesto, lo de hoy de todo tipo de música, lo de hoy de todo tipo de música clásica, pasando con lo que tú quieras, lo de hoy de todo tipo de música clásica, lo de hoy de todo tipo de música clásica, pasando con lo que tú quieras, y después a las 9 empezaba, era por supuesto, lo de hoy de todo tipo de música clásica, pasando con lo que tú quieras, y después a las 9 empezaba, era por supuesto, empezaba a desarrollar las horas de la música cubana.
Ayodele Casel, Amanda Rusa, Gabe Lobos Honig, Mike Swoop, so one of the things that I love about Yasek is he's also got artistic ADHD. And he's not content to sit in one place. And his commitment to young people and young musicians and his inability to focus is endearing to me. I guess I can identify with it. But we're going to play a piece of his called Polonius, and we don't know where it'll go. If you feel the urge to transform or levitate or just dance or move in any way that fits your groove, please do so, because we don't know what's going to happen. We do know that we're with you, and that has made all the difference in the world to us.
solamente de música cubana.
Mike Suk, Gabe Globus-Honig, Amanda Rusa, Yasek Manzano, Ayodele Casel, Arturo O'Farrill, thank you.
You can see them all at City Center on Saturday night. Don't miss it. Thank you so, so much. And thank you for being an incredible audience. Adelante!